Welcome to 6 of One and Bill of the Other, where today we are going to talk about Alien Romulus. Let's get straight into it. We've been reviewing a lot of low-budget films recently, giallos, stuff with kind of low-quality visuals, dubbing. And Bill, you saw this film before me, and you let me know that you felt like you were in safe hands. Your words to me were, when it started, and I saw it, and I heard it, it felt like a real movie, Mercurial number 6, a real movie. And I went in there expecting to feel the same, but I actually thought it was a colossal waste of time and money, and I preferred the bird with the crystal plumage. Bill, why did you like it?
I hadn't watched a blockbuster in the theater for a little while, and it just felt nice. The movie started. I felt like the orchestra score for this film is really good. We've reviewed a lot of like Star Wars series, and I feel like their music is generic orchestral track number 4. And so the music stood out to me. I thought the sound work was good with some exceptions. But just the way everything looked, you could tell a lot of money, a lot of love and care went into it. It gave me similar vibes to 1980s blockbusters like the Alien franchise and Terminator 2 in a good way. I really liked the little coal mining town that they were in. It was a little different from anything we've seen before in an Alien film. And to start it out, I was really hopeful. I just felt pretty good about everything. I will say, if we're talking about sound and cinematography, the one thing was there were times where I felt like, and maybe it's because we're getting older, I like putting subtitles on when I watch movies now.
Yeah, same here.
I felt like there were a lot of times, especially, you know me, I love the dad jokes. So I felt like I missed some of the dad jokes, and when they got on the ship. And I think another tough thing with that was I don't think the English accents helped much making out what they were saying. For instance,
there's something in the water!
Yeah, so there was a lot of that where I'm just like, okay, I get it, kind of the gist. But on a whole, it had a vibe, which is, we'll talk about later, they were definitely going for as a early 90s, late 80s blockbuster film. And I thought at the beginning I was very hopeful. I felt really good about it.
I know where you're coming from with that. I agree that when it comes to the sort of the sound mix itself, I did miss the dad jokes. They just weren't. There was just something wrong there. When it comes to the Brit accent, for me that wasn't a problem at all. But I suspect I haven't watched.
Go figure.
Well,
no,
I know that's the thing, right? But I suspect now, right? If I was to go and choose, because I haven't done it yet, and watch some reviews on YouTube or whatever. And I'm assuming that the majority of them are going to be American sort of centric reviews. I reckon that they might be criticising the fact that they can't understand a lot of the audio because of the Brit accent. But honestly, if you're in this country, it wasn't a problem. But I did not even, it's not that I didn't understand the dad jokes, I didn't even hear them. And because of that, that was a genuine problem for me.
Well, I think once they got on the ship, I felt like there were points where I definitely couldn't hear what they were saying, and there were also points where I couldn't quite make out what was on the ship. And I know you sort of have to do that in a horror movie because the idea is something could jump out from anywhere. But I did feel like there were places they walked by that I just couldn't quite see. Maybe it just means I'm getting old and I'm losing my hearing. And
yeah, and it might be that because I know I'm certainly losing my hearing. When it comes to me saying I felt like it was a colossal waste of time, what I kind of meant was I could see on the screen the effort involved, and I especially like the fact, if I'm going to go for probably my biggest positive of the whole movie here, so this is a big one, right? Straight away, the practical effects. I could genuinely see that I think the majority. Even down, I mean, and this whole review is spoilers. Even down to a basketball player at the end in a latex suit rather than CGI. I could see that he'd created and made the stuff rather than using like visual effects, computer generated effects. I've got a negative coming up later regarding that too.
Oh, I think we both do.
Yeah.
But I agree with you in that I like when they film on location. I like, which obviously the ship wasn't, but I got the sense.
I think it was massive sound stages involved. Like, these places were built. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
One little thing from me. Where you talked about the sound of the film feeling like an 80s film. You thought the music was memorable. in an 80s.
I did.
Where I could sing to you now, Superman, Back to the Future, even Terminator.
No,
I couldn't tell you. This wasn't memorable to me. This was
I wouldn't say it wasn't the best I've ever heard in my life, but in the moment, it was like very regal sounding, and it worked, and it sucked me into the film, and it really helped the atmosphere of the film for me. Where I found lately a lot of sci-fi shows and movies I watch, the music is just kind of not quite like I hear it and I go, oh, I wish this was something good, and this one was very good. It was not Jaws, it was not the Empire Strikes Back, but it was definitely. It helps suck you into the vibe of the film more so than most films I've seen recently.
We're asking the question, Bill. Was there a single solitary new idea in this film? Was there an idea that, I feel this was a colossal waste of time? You got to convince me. Was there an idea here that made the film worth being created in the first place?
Unfortunately, no. And you could get into a semantic argument about, well, technically the Prometheus goo, they used it a little bit in a different way. And that was really what my major disappointment. And if, I could only talk about one thing about this movie, it would be this. And that throughout the first half of the movie, I got all the homages. They brought back the android from Alien 1. It was very Alien, the first Alien, reminiscent in the beginning. I thought the town was a nice addition. That was sort of new, that they were living on the mining town and the small view we got of that. But I was okay with it. And then when they discovered that new experiment with the alien goo, I thought they were going to do something original with it. I thought, okay. And I realized for the amount that they copied from all the films, I mean, you could argue with Alien 3 because they had the dogs got infected and became dogs. So you could argue maybe that got in there. But really, all the other films, they copied them so much that I realized watching it about halfway through, I realized they were doing that, but I still was really enjoying myself and I really was liking the movie. And it has a lot to do with the directing. It has a lot to do with the characters, and the actors. But
did you like Prometheus?
No, I liked what... let me say this. I liked what Prometheus wanted to be. But let me just finish my thought. So I thought that goo in the middle was going to be a new thing, and I didn't quite know where they were going to go. I kind of thought where they did go, and I was like, no, they won't do that. And as long as I thought that was going to be something new, I found all of the rest of the film held together for me. And the instant I realized they're going to just copy Alien Resurrection with it, it totally ruined. And then it got ridiculous. Like I would say the last 3/4, there was a point where Andy, he's like, get off her, you bitch. And there was like 5 people in the theater. I saw it early. And like we all laughed, but not in a good, this was a good comic moment. It was sort of like if you were watching an Exorcist remake and the priest was like, yippee-ki-yay, mother. He'd just be like, where did that come from? It just didn't fit his character at all. And she has a line where she's like, you mother or something. Yeah. And it just didn't fit. And I think that last fourth of the movie, when she started getting in the mech unit and she looked like Sigourney Weaver, and that's where it crossed the threshold where I'm like, it just became farcical.
It was in danger of becoming fan fiction in its callbacks, right? And we're going to talk about a big callback that I hated in a minute. But let me just talk about... So you said to me, before I saw the film, right? You said you felt warm and safe, but you said perhaps there's...
By the way, I've known you for over 10 years. I can say I have never, ever told you I feel warm.
I thought you had a warm... I came out of Alien Romulus and I had a warm feeling in my belly.
Yeah, no, I've never...
He did.
Maybe if I was talking about eating a nice steak, I have a warm feeling in my belly.
Mercurial number 6, I had a warm feeling deep in my belly. When it comes to like you hinted to me that it might not have an original idea anywhere in its bones. But as it started, you've got a group of like Brit teenagers on a mining planet. And to me, that was kind of in itself, in this alien world, an attempt, maybe at a new idea. But it immediately lost me when the group of teenagers got into some ramshackle spaceship and went up to a space station that no one else had noticed.
Well, I think other people
was
saw
bollocks.
it. They were the only one. Yeah, it
Oh, come
probably
on, it was
but
bollocks.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I was sort of fine with it. It bothered me a little, but I was like, I'll let them have
Okay,
this.
original idea number 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the rings of the planet, and
Oh,
the way
here we
they
go.
have a time limit countdown is that the space station is going to crash into the rings of the planet. I hated that as well. Can I tell you an idea that I quite liked?
Okay. Go
On
for
the
it.
space station, they had the ability to turn the gravity on and off.
Mm-hmm.
And they played with that a fair amount to the point where there was a set piece where she decided that the way that she could counter the fact that the aliens spill their acid blood, which the film was obsessed with. It was obsessed with the acid blood more than any other of the alien films has been. She decided that she could turn the gravity off so that the acid blood wouldn't touch anything. I quite liked that scene.
I like that sequence too.
The physics of it is hopeless and it doesn't really work.
And then Andy turned to her and said, "I'll have a Royale with cheese." Like, and they just started quoting movies.
Yeah, and in space, no one can eat ice cream.
In space, no one will remember that we've already done this.
That's quite good. I could put that on the screen now, couldn't I? And I could have the stars and the spaceship going through.
In space, no one can remember that we've already done this.
Alien lore. This is my biggest problem with the whole.
Okay.
Once you become a franchise, okay. So Alien, the original '70s Ridley Scott film, such a beautiful setup, such a beautiful concept. Some guys in space, and they come across a creature, face hugger. They don't know what it is. Attaches to someone's face. Now, before I go on to that sort of part, I would say that I think the scariest thing about the Alien films, it demands that you don't know how the alien kind of works. So the people in the film, and I can imagine the audience at the time in the 70s who'd never seen this before, it must have been genuinely freaky. The idea that something latches onto your face and sort of keeps you breathing with its own lungs as it kind of gestates inside you. And then another creature bursts out from inside you, and then it becomes its own, probably the most kind of original and one of the greatest movie aliens. Once you as an audience know what's going to happen, it's no longer particularly scary.
And their solution to that is, let's make it all happen faster.
Yes.
And so
The TikTok
she gets
generation.
the face hugger, and it's like, well, did it infect her? We don't know. And then it literally is like fully hatched in 10 minutes. And and in case you wanted to say maybe it took a little longer, in the movie they're going 9:59, 9:58.
Well, they're gonna crash into the rings of
yeah.
rings of the planet. It couldn't have taken any longer.
And I always thought one of the scariest parts in the original Alien about that was that it happens, and then he's fine. And a couple days go by, and he's
Yes.
hanging out, and they're talking, and they're eating the spaghetti.
So it's a surprise when he suddenly feels ill. And they put him on the table and they hold him down, John Hurt. It's a surprise.
And even though we know it's going to happen, they gave that, well, we got it off. Maybe it didn't infect her. And then for the rest of the movie, we could go, is she or isn't she? And that could be some nice alien-esque horror, but they wanted to go Alien too. So they literally, everything happens in 5 minutes,
Exactly. So the alien then bursts out of the stomach as part of the alien lore, and it grows up to be a fully formed alien, which, like I said, is one of the most classic kind of creature designs in the history of cinema. And then kind of Aliens introduces the idea that maybe there's a queen that lays the eggs in the first place that the face huggers come out of. And you had it all set up there, such a simple concept in a way. The perfect killing machines are out there. Acid for blood, all the kind of sexual Geiger stuff going on. So my point is, it got muddied, film after film. And they started to do the human-alien combos. And then Prometheus especially, when they introduced the black goo, which you realise that It doesn't make the alien special at all. The alien, it's such a complicated.
Well, no, I didn't mind that, and
I
this movie
hated
sort
that.
of. Well, this movie retconned it a little in a good way, in that the aliens always existed, and the way I took it was the aliens have been ancient. The whatever Prometheus humanoid people found it and extracted the black goo from the alien, and that's what they used to seed life on Earth. And so they sort of worshipped it. That's why the murals were there. And the idea was that David in Covenant sort of made an offshoot, but that wasn't the real alien. And I am glad they retconned that. I thought that bit was interesting, but I do think you have a valid point in that Geiger's design for the alien is so iconic and so subconscious and obviously phallic, and how they make everything in this movie very, sexual, that they can't top it. And every time they try to introduce a new creature, it's just not as good as the original alien. That look is just horrifying, and there's something primeval about it that they just haven't been able to top.
In this film, I don't think there was think there was enough of the alien. I think the director and the writers thought there was. They thought they chucked aliens everywhere. But we got a few flashes, a few close-up faces, but I don't think they utilised the idea of the alien yet again.
Well, yeah, why? If one's good, 10 must be. It's how my dad does, like, medicine. He's like, well, if one will make me feel better, 10 will
Well,
make
James
me
Cameron
real
did
better.
it. James Cameron did it, right?
Yeah.
And I think he did it successfully. But I was saying this to you earlier, right? I think Alien was like the perfect film in terms of suspense and dread and fear of the idea of this killing machine on this. You can't escape it. You're on a little spaceship and it's kind of stalking you. Perfect film, right? James Cameron, he had somewhere, he had a place to go, which was let's have more of them. Right? And it could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. It was a great film. But I was saying to you, I think it skewed the franchise. It although it was a good film, it destroyed it. And every film since has just done more.
Yeah.
And it's been a complete cluster.
I think they just didn't know what to do with it after 2. No one has. I will say with Prometheus and even Covenant, I like that they're trying to answer these questions, but the execution just wasn't it.
Yeah.
There's what's that famous thing where Lars Ulrich from Metallica, his dad, they're playing him like a new song off Saint Anger. And then he's like, Dad, what do you think? And the dad looks at him real silent. And he goes, how do you say delete?
Delete.
It just...
That.
it just didn't have... it just didn't do it. So there's a scene where they have to go through a hallway of face huggers and they can detect their heat, so they have to be quiet. And of course, they're talking on the walkie-talkie and yelling. And it's a very tense scene. It works very well. If you were in a spaceship and you saw a tentacle monster throw its tentacle very sensually down the throat of somebody, and you have to go down a hallway of them, would you A, look for a helmet? Or, like, I think I would just grab plexiglass and just be holding it up against my... Or, at the very least, would you not be doing this?
Yeah.
Going down the hallway? Because they're like, I hope none of them come get me!
In the water! Jesus Christ, man! Close your mouth!
Yeah, and then the walkie-talkie is going, and then they're like, remember, you have to be quiet!
Be quiet! Be quiet and close your mouth. You want to talk about the good things about Andy, and I want to talk about the bad things about Ian Holm being brought back from the dead. Not even as the actual character, like just needlessly as another android that looks the same.
I loved Andy, and I tend to like I don't know what it says about me. I always like the androids. I think when it comes down to the heart of the film, who are you gonna like? It's like, what's more interesting? A android that's programmed to be as rational and efficient as possible versus a killing machine alien, or a killing machine alien versus some guy or some lady. Like, I always found the alien's moves interesting. When Andy first came on, as listeners of our show will know, a slightly slow guy that loves dad jokes and is misunderstood. I just loved him instantly. I was like, oh, he is so
Yeah,
cool.
I was thinking
and
of
I
you.
like him. I like him so much that they're gonna murder him really awfully. I thought, like in the middle, and I think what they were trying to do, which I think there's all this sort of people complain about diversity in films and they're shoehorning all this stuff. I definitely think Andy was a stand-in for neurodivergent or someone with maybe Asperger's, and I thought they did a great job. That the one character hates him and treats him like shit, but you see why he's like maybe the most worthwhile person on the team, and you really like him. And then they do the face turn I thought the actor, it's David. I think I wrote it down because I want to acknowledge him. It's
What, in case he's watching this podcast right now?
yeah, David Johnson. He was so good, and when he did the about turn and was reprogrammed, he did that just beautifully. And I thought that was the most exciting thing. It's like his plans and what he was doing, even though he was double crossing them, was more interesting to me than the same thing we've seen a million Alien films.
Let's agree then, right, that Andy was probably the best thing about this film.
I love,
Right? The
I
actor
loved
playing
everything
in
he-
some of
he
the
did.
scenes, the scene where he just grabs like that, and the
Yeah.
guy has a go at him, but he doesn't realise that he's just saved one of those brick guys from falling down a massive
Yeah.
hole.
He's like, "Come on, governor!
Come on,
That was a hole in it. That's a hole in it."
What country is he from now? But having said that, right, I think the worst thing about the film was the other android. So they come across the kind of
I think they call him Rook in this one.
he's called Rook, and he's like is a mutilated android, and I think the Sigourney Weaver character kind of turns him on again, not sexually, turns him on, and it turns out it's Ian Holm from the original Alien film, the actor who died about 4 or so years ago. And I was really confused in the cinema, in the movie theater, watching this, because to me it was like, oh, that's the android from, that's the kind of evil corporate capitalist android from Alien. And then I was thinking, hang on a minute, he was destroyed, and he was called Ash, so it's not him. So they've needlessly made the android look like the android from Alien, probably in that sort of way. And I was saying this to Bill earlier, that way of like, maybe there's like a model of android that all looks the same, just like the Terminators in the Terminator films were all modelled on the person that looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And they did do that in Alien Covenant with the two Davids.
Right, okay.
Where
And
there was,
okay, so that kind of makes sense. But that was this was the biggest mistake in the film. A terrible, terrible decision. I hated it. I believe it was a physical, practical effect. Again, I think they built the android and did a puppet face thing.
Did it throw you when he did a Donald Trump line when she was like, "Open the door"? He was like, "You're fired." I was like, what is he talking like Trump for?
No, it's like we're joking, but it kind of makes sense, because the android represents that Wayland Corporation kind of capitalist. We are only interested in getting this alien, because the film starts. It's difficult to get a grasp of. The film starts with like a little spaceship thing going with like a grabber. And I think grabbing the original alien that Sigourney Weaver ejected from the Nostromo, whatever, from the original film. It's not really explained, but that's what we're led to believe. So they must use that on this space station, the Romulus and Remus.
So for the folks at home, the Romulus and Remus, the legend goes, are the founders of Rome. They were apparently raised by wolves, and then they had a battle over who was going to rule Rome. I believe they both chose a hill, and they were going to lead from that hill. And eventually, Remus is murdered, and Romulus becomes, Rome, as you could imagine. Spoilers, becomes Rome. And so they talked about the ship being Romulus and one half being Remus. I guess, is it the Raised by Wolves? I still don't understand, other than that, how it ties into the story.
Right, so I've got no idea either, but I was thinking about it literally as I was coming into this studio to switch the lights on, and I thought Romulus and Remus fell out over the building of Rome, and I think Romulus killed Remus. So two factions, opposing factions. Does that tie in with Prometheus and the original engineers, where there was two sets? There was the engineers and the destroyers, and and the whole sending. So they wiped each other out.
I think it literally
The creation
has
of
nothing to do
Rome,
with it.
Earth, with Jesus 2,000 years ago. And all that.
I think we're looking too deep into it. I
I'm
think
not.
they were-
You know, I hate this film. I was just trying to give it a bit of.
Yeah.
I was just trying
I
to give
think
it a
they
bit
were
of a oomph.
I think they're like, we'll name it this, and maybe at some point in the script they had some role for it.
Well, no, in fact,
and then-
it's terrible then, because it turns out it's named Alien Romulus because it happens on a space station called Romulus.
maybe
That's
he was
shit.
maybe he was a Star Trek fan, and it was a callback to the Romulans, and he just spelled
It wrong. We need to talk about the end of this film, Bill. We touched upon it earlier, where I said I had the distinct impression that the writer and director may have felt that they'd stumbled across an original idea here. How about we abandon this amazing genetically superior war machine alien that H.R. Geiger came up with and is one of the greatest aliens in cinematic history? How about we abandon that, and we have come up with the idea? This is brilliant. You're going to love this. You're going to love this, right? This idea I've got. How about the pregnant girl injects herself with the black goo, and she comes up and she expels a alien human hybrid. How about that for an original idea?
Oh, here's the thing. Let me ask you this. Okay, let's say you're lying on your back, right? And you're just
It
getting
occasionally
some sun.
happens.
Yeah, you're outside, you're getting some sun, and I step over you with a barrel of pickle juice, let's say, and I just start pouring pickle juice on you. Are you just gonna sit there and go, ah?
Yeah,
or are you gonna roll out of the way?
No, I think I would just like in Prometheus, I would run in a straight line. I think I would just lie on my back and do that with my arms. Bill, when this monster first happened, right, and it came out and everything, my first reaction actually was positive. When I was introduced to all the characters at the beginning, I wanted them all dead. I didn't like any of them, and I wanted them all dead. So I wasn't invested in this film at all. But at the end, I thought, we're going to get some interesting body horror stuff going on here. And then very quickly it dawned on me that no, it's not, you idiot. It's just another alien human hybrid. Right, okay, fade to black.
I've already talked about pouring pickle juice on you.
Yeah.
I think that's enough for the one show.
And that was
you
quite
know?
sexual. In fact, when this finishes, I'm going to go and pour pickle juice all over my genitals. Well, to be fair, it's something we do here
Jesus.
anyway. It's something we do here anyway.
Is that a British thing?
It's a British thing. If you listen, right, well, at the time that it was going, there's something in the water. He was talking about pickles, yeah, gherkins, pickled gherkins. Hey guys, there's something in the water. There's something in the water.
Jesus fuck!
There's something in the water. Oh, it's just a pickled gherkin.
A gherkin. What's a gherkin?
Oh my god. It's weird, isn't it? It's like we're almost similar, and yet a gherkin separates us. It's the Atlantic and a gherkin.
Is that when they pull? Is that like when they pull your underwear up so far it gets stuck? Like, is that a gherkin?
Seriously, what do you call that? Do you call that a wedgie in America?
Yeah, it's a wedgie.
Oh,
Yeah,
see,
it's a wedgie.
so a gherkin separates us.
But a wedgie brings us
Brings
together.
us together.
Oh, that's a lovely way to end the podcast. Overall, fade to black, fade back up again. Overall, what did you think of Alien Romulus?
Well-made film, very well acted, great music, zero new ideas.
I thought everyone involved, from the cinematographer to the audio to the actors to the scriptwriter to the director, everyone should have just spent their time and their considerable effort on something more original. And that's kind of where I was going with the fact that I genuinely preferred the bird with the crystal plumage, because that one scene with the guy between those panes of glass watching the murder had more originality than anything in this total cluster of $150 whatever $1 million film. And on that bombshell, Until next time. Yeah. Over and